Hello, Mechwarriors. Are you considering building a heavy SRM build? Well, look no further. I've got a couple of good choices, and whether it's a clan mech or an inner sphere mech, these two choices I think are probably the best matched via their design and the way they work. And here we are looking at the Catapult A1. This is a perfect heavy mech that is absolutely wonderful for doing SRM 6s. First of all, you can do 6 of them. And in my opinion, if you're going to do an SRM build, anything less than 6 missile systems that you can put 6 of them on is really kind of almost a waste. There are some caveats that'll make some differences, like in the medium styles. But you want to have 6 of them. It just seems to be some sort of weird magic number. The other mech that we'll be talking about is the sns-c. Now, you can see what this one looks like as far as its overall height, its build and design. And neither of these builds have any energy weapons. They are all missile. It's the way they're come, that's the way they're built. Now, the one caveat difference between the two is the Sunspider is an omnipod mech, so you can make it into a variety of other designs other than missile. You can make it an energy build, a ballistic build, or whatever your money can afford. But ultimately, these two mechs, as they come from the factory, are designed for running 6 missile points. And if you're going to build an SRM 6, these are my 2 top choices. And they do them really well in justice to each other. Now, the difference that's most obvious is that the Sunspider is quite a bit taller, which means it could probably get up over the top of the battlefield better. It's also going to be less visible. When you look at the two, the cockpit is way down here and the missiles are up here, which is really nice because it's a very short mech. However, these big boxes, they do stand out quite a bit. They are quite a bit different in size and height, but they both essentially do the same thing, and one of them might do it better. Still a very big frame overall, and it could be argued that one of them has better hitboxes than the other. As far as the armor goes, I have to give the nod to the inner sphere because it's an inner sphere mech. They have typically better armor. Let's go and see what they look like firing on the battlefield. In this coming up, you will see how it fires at maximum range and how it fires at close quarters, 30 meters in both mechs, and how many volleys it takes, also how much damage it's doing based on that as well. And what I mean by that is how the cluster works. Here we are testing the Catapult A1 with SRM 6s with Artemis. This is a test to see how the missiles fire and how well they operate in the confines of getting it on target. I have centered the cursor on the center mass, and we will see what we see. First volley. Second. We will move in behind and see what we see. All missiles are on target. And a side shot.
Target destroyed.
Here we'll be testing how many volleys it takes to take down an awesome in a Catapult A1 with 6 SRM-6s with Artemis. We were aiming for the center mass at the head, and this is at 30 meters, which I consider point blank range. We'll be doing the same thing on the Clan Mech as well. We're seeing how many volleys it takes to take an awesome down. 1, 2, 3. After 3 volleys, the awesome is down. Let's see how the Clan Mech does. Now that you've seen how the Inner Sphere Mech fires its weapons, and how the Clan Mech fires its weapons specifically at maximum range, and also at close quarters, you have a better understanding of how they work. Granted that the Inner Sphere Mech, their SRM-6, does more damage than the Clan equivalent. And here we're going to talk about those differences. So as you can see, this is the height of the mech and its overall build. It has these 2 giant pods, and in each pod there is a missile system, completely enclosed, and these doors will open to fire. And there's 3 missile systems here and 3 here, and nothing in the center torso. As promised, there's nothing in the center torso, left and right torsos. All the missiles are out on the arms, which means if you lose an arm, you lose half the weapons. That is a loss, but you have a decent amount of armor to go with it. 76 armor is nothing to laugh at. It's actually pretty good armor. The left and right torso, not as much armor. This is a fully skilled mech, and I'll show you the skills as we go. But first, let's talk about the quirks. So the way this mech comes, you get an SRM HSL, which means you can add 2 additional, in this particular case, missiles that are SRM without getting a heat spike. See, no ghost heat warning up here, nothing. So you get those 2 additional. You also get missile heat generation minus 5%, missile cooldown minus 10%, which means you can fire them more often. Missile velocity plus 10%, which means they get to the target much faster. Base armor for the left arm and right arm are given at plus 25. Wow. Look at that. That's incredible. Center torso for base structure, you're getting plus 8. Left and right structure torsos, you're getting plus 6. Plus 7 on each one of the arms, and plus 6 on each one of the legs. In addition, sensors are given, sensor range is plus 100. This has massive range. Now, is that going to be useful on an SRM build? Probably not. It might be useful to your teammates, though. But if you're going to build something other than an SRM build, maybe a Thunderbolt or LRM build, you might be able to take advantage of some of that. More likely on the LRM build. Strong recommendation. I recommend 2 SRM4s and 4 LRM10s. It's a good choice. Gives you plenty of armor, plenty of ammo, and it gives you some good heat generation control. Going up to this build, once again we have 6 SRM6s with Artemis. We have a heat management of 1.55, which is very good. We have a firepower of 77.4 and a speed of 63.6, which all in all is very good. We have maximum armor all throughout this mech, so whatever this mech is capable of armor, this has it. In addition, we have 2 double heat sinks, And an advanced sensor package which gives you better zoom ability. Well, why would zoom make much of a difference? Well, it's going to help you because these missiles actually have a pretty good range. They peak out at 310 meters with skilling in the skill tree. Otherwise, 270 stock. And we're using the maximum range as you saw. Maximum optimum range are the same. Projectile speed is originally 400, but we're getting plus 100 on top of that as well. And missile spread is getting a missile spread reduction, which was originally 4.25, and now it's down by 0.212. So it's a little bit tighter spread. Missile crit damage plus 15%, and that's from the skills tree. So the heat you're getting off of these originally is 3.4 and minus 0.37. I measured a full alpha strike on these 6 SRM6s with Artemis at 32%. I did it 4 times and from 0, and I managed to get a score of 32% every single time. On the Clan Mech, it does 31%, but that's not the end of it. The damage that each one of the SRM6s gives out is 12.9. In the Clan Mech, it's not doing that. On the Clan Mech, it has a maximum firepower on the mech of 72. This has a maximum firepower of 77.4. So this is doing more damage. In addition, we have 6 tons of ammo, and once again, we have full armor and full capability with lots of range. Now the bad news. The bad news is in order to build this mech to this specification, you have to put an XL 255 motor on it. You can do it with a smaller motor, but you will sacrifice the speed and heat. So there are some drawbacks. But if you drive this mech properly and you know how to do twist and torso movement, you won't have much problem. You might lose a left or right arm, but losing a torso is unlikely if you're a good player. And it does take some time to learn how to drive this mech. You have to think of it in terms of having giant boxes on either one of your shoulders, because the arms really are just the boxes. That's all they really are. Intersphere mechs are like this. So if you lose a torso, the match is over. That is the downside. But it does really well otherwise. We have 3 consumables. 2 of them are cool shots. 1 of them is a UAV. That's my typical build. Moving over to the skills tree. We have maxed out range, which is going to help us in being able to keep our distance and make it harder for people to do damage to us. If you want to get in and do close quarters battling, go for it. I don't recommend running an XL engine though. Heat generation. We have 8 points in the heat generation. Maximum velocity. I didn't go with additional missile racks because the way this is built, it has 720 missiles for 6 SRM6s. That is plenty of ammo. Trust me. You can go with these additional if you want. I put them into armor. And cool heat generation. So we have missile spread, which gives a tighter spread, and then that 15% improvement right there, baby. Crit chance on top. As far as survivability goes, maximum skeletal density, armor hardening, reinforced casing, and just 1 heat node into overheat damage, just in case. Have I overheated? Yeah, I've gotten pretty hot. So why not? Cool run, heat containment. I've always considered these as like extra armor. To me, it's armor on the inside. Seismic sensor, absolutely a must. I just can't tell you how important it is. If you're going to be running a close quarters brawler, the seismic sensor is going to make a huge difference in your life. Not being the target of other people's firepower, especially LRMs and Thunderbolts. That's where radar deprivation comes in. The sensor range isn't going to help you much because you have a maximum range of 310 meters. So having a sensor range that goes all the way out to 1,000 meters isn't going to make much of a difference to you, since that's approximately 690 beyond what you can fire at. And as I mentioned before, I wanted my 3 consumables. So this makes out a fairly rounded mech. And this is a great choice if you're going to run an Intersphere mech for doing SRM 6s on a heavy mech. Are there mechs out there that have more missile points? Absolutely. You can go to an archer, but I think this one does it the best. Here we are in the Sunspider C. And the Sunspider C has several options available. First of all, this is an Omnipod mech by a clan mech, which means you can change out the torsos as mentioned earlier. That means you can turn this into an energy build, a ballistics build, or a missile build, or a combination of all 3. You could have missiles, ballistics, and energy. A lot of choices. A lot of choices. The cockpit is fairly up high, and in my opinion, I really dig that, and it's one of the reasons Sunspiders are one of the most prevalent mechs I have in my collection. If you look at the weapon system, it's fairly in line, especially the ones that are on the left and right torso. On the Catapult, as you remember, the weapon system was really up high, and the cockpit was very down low, which means you have to expose a lot of the mech to be able to fire those weapons on target if it's over a corner, over a top of a hill. Doors and corners, either one's going to do just as well. And in fact, I would probably argue that the Catapult does it better around doors and corners. And the reason is because all the missile systems are out on the arms versus having a pair of them on the torsos. So you have to expose more of your mech to be able to fire these ones versus on the Catapult. Now the Catapult arm sections are wider, which is what it is, and they do have to open the doors in order to fire them. These do not have doors, so there's less of the mech visible. So you can kind of see why the Catapult is a more visible mech than the Sunspider. Let's take a look at this guy. So this has, once again, just like the Catapult, 6 SRM 6s. 2 of them on each one of the arms, and then 1 on each torso. We have a huge amount of ammo on here. The other one had 6 tons of ammo. This one has 8 tons of ammo. Plus, since I don't have the option of having a advanced sensor package in the head, I also went with a Mark III targeting computer and a Clan Active probe. They both have 2 double heat sinks in addition to the ones that are built into the engine. Now this one, with these features, gives it a really good range of visibility, and the maximum distance that this mech can fire at, like the Catapult, is 310 meters. The difference is that this one only does 72 damage versus the 77.4 damage, because each one of these SRM 6s only does 12 damage versus the 12.9. So you can see why I added more ammo to the build to be able to compete in the long run. You got to remember, it's always a war of attrition. The one who has the best weapons and armor usually wins. So that's what it comes down to. Let's take a look at the quirks. This gets an XP bonus of plus 2.5%. It has missile velocity plus 10%. And compared to the Catapult, doesn't have nearly as much possible firepower features. Doesn't have any of the heat generation reduction or HSL features, and that's why there is a warning at the top of the screen we'll get to in a moment. Base armor, center torso plus 10. Left and right torsos plus 10. Left and right arms plus 7. Nothing in the legs, and this is base armor improvements. There's no additional structure bonuses. The only structure bonuses you're going to get are from the skills tree on this. Target decay duration plus 0.5%. That means you're going to be able to hold on to our target just a little bit longer than you normally would. Now you can also supplement that with target decay in the skills tree. The heat generation on this is 1.71, which is far better than that on the Catapult. The Catapult, I believe, is 1.56. This does have less firepower, so I guess it could be argued that it's the reason this does better on heat is because it has less firepower. Firepower is 72, speed is 81. So this is quicker on the battlefield, and it has better heat generation. But the Catapult has more firepower and better armor. So there's arguments to be had for both sides there. This has 2 consumables and a cool, it has 3 consumables, excuse me, 2 cool shots and a UAV. Now, let's get to the bad. This is an XL engine, but unlike its Catapult counterpart, it doesn't suffer that if it loses a torso that the match is over. If you take a torso off of this mech, it will survive. If you take both torsos off, it will die. So you do have to be careful in that regard. Also, because there isn't a lot of places to put the ammo in this build, even though this has case protection and the Innersphere mech does not, I think the Innersphere mech does better with storing the ammo, because you only get 1 slot here versus the 2, and you only get 1 slot in each leg. And you do have pretty good armor, and if you do have an ammo explosion, it could be a bad day on either one of the mechs. But once again, this mech has case protection on both of its sections. Now here's another part of the bad. Firing more than 4 clan SRMs simultaneously will result in a heat spike. So now remember how this has really good heat management? I didn't have to put these 2 double heat sinks on here because this already had really good heat management. And so here, even here, it's still it's 0.04 better than the, it's 0.04 better than the Innersphere mech on heat management. The heat management on the Catapult was 1.56. This is 1.6, and I would have survived easily with this. But because this doesn't have the 2 additional HSL for being able to add 2 additional missiles without having a heat spike, this will suffer. Now, when you fire all 6 of these, it only does 31% heat versus the 32 on the Catapult. However, the Catapult has a cooldown feature which does create the opportunity to be able to fire more often, and which means you can also produce more heat because of it. With this one, you get a little bit of cooldown, and then you can fire the weapons again. But this one, once again, remember, it's picking up on ghost heat. So I think in the long run, you're going to be able to put more mechs in the dirt with the Catapult than you can with the Sunspider. Now, because the Sunspider is an omnipod mech, and it has multiple systems you can add to it with less tonnage wasted, there's some improvements. So as an example, the SRM-6 with Artemis on this mech is only 2.5 tons. When we go over to the Catapult, this is 4 tons. So that means each one of these weapon systems weighs 1.5 tons more than the clan compatible. Now, that 1.5 tons is going to give you something. It's going to give you more firepower, but it's going to also take up more torso space. So there's an argument to be had there as well. Here we are testing the Sunspider-C for its range test on the SRM-6s with Artemis. Once again, the Artemis gives a tighter cluster of weapons and tighter on the target. In this case, we are targeting the center torso just like we did with the Catapult. 1 volley, full alpha strike. I am dead center on this target. and I'm still doing primary damage more toward the center torso and the right torso. In fact, I have yet to hit the left torso yet. We'll see from a different point of view.
Target destroyed.
In this test of the Sunspider C with 6 SRM6s with Artemis, we will be doing alpha strikes to see how many it takes to kill this awesome. 1, 2, 3. Looks like probably number 4. 4 strikes, put this down. My final thoughts. Honestly, I feel like the Sunspider does really well on being able to put weapon down range, and because it is a little bit quicker, it can get into tighter spots better. But the Catapult, in this case, is the clear winner in my opinion. It has better armor, it does more damage per volley than the Clan Mech does. It's also shorter in height. Now, with the cockpit down low, like you see here, and the weapon systems up here, it kind of works in both directions. You have to expose these pods all the way up to this point here, which is about half of the mech, in order to look over the top of targets and stuff. However, around a corner, you can fire all 3 of these missile systems better. Now, which is more often? I think it's about 50-50, because there are a lot of forest style maps, like, you know, Polar Highlands or Forest Colony or Frozen or Tourmaline or Canyon Network, where you would go up over the tops of hills and deal with things like that. But then there's also matches like HPG Manifold and Vitric, where you have more corners that you can deal with as well. So I think it's about 50-50 on those maps. And the fact that you get better armor with this mech, I think that really leads to making this a far, not maybe a far superior, but a better choice between the two. Now, if you're planning on buying one and you want to be able to do other things with it, this is very limited. You can do 6 Thunderbolt 5s on this mech and have a lot of fun. You can do an LRM build. You could even do a streak build if you like that kind of thing. I don't. But on the Clan Mech, as far as the versatility goes, the Clan Mech is the far better choice. It doesn't have the same armor, and it does have some really cool features about it. The missile velocity, target decay, things like that. But because it is an Omnipod mech, you can build other things with it. Let me show you what I mean. So here's one where you get 4 machine guns and then 4 ATM-9s. So that's a ballistics and a missile build. And of course you could build other things with it as well. And then here's a missile mix I came up with. This actually doesn't really change anything. 2 LRM 20s, 2 ATM-6s, and 2 SRM-6s. I was actually playing around with this. I still haven't figured out if this is viable or not. Then you have your 4 ATM-9 build. This is one I run on here almost all the time. 4 ATM-9s and then 2 ER medium lasers. You could change this out and you can make this all into an all laser build. You could add ECM to it just by simply coming over here, going to the left torso, and picking the Sunspider D, where you get ECM now. And then you could have 2 energy points on here and 3 missile systems, or you could put machine guns over here, or a ballistic setup over here, and do a variety of different things. There are so many choices with this that you could play all day and just come up with different types of builds and have just a ball doing it. And of course some of them have their quirks like laser duration and armor +7, things like that. But between the two, as far as leaving them stock, I really love my clan mechs, but I think Interspear does the SRM6 build better in overall. Now, if you were to compare these two mechs as far as LRM goes, I would give the nod to the clan mech in this regard.